Hey, I feel like we should start out today with a moment of silence for the Philadelphia Eagles fans in the room. Listen, y'all finally lost. And that happens. Eagles fans, it happens, you lose. But you lost to the Washington Commanders. What? Where are the Washington Commanders fans at in the room? Where are you? Listen, it will never get better than it is for you in this moment. You have reached your summit. This is as good as it's ever going to get. Anyway, enough football. What's up, people? Is anybody happy to be in church today? Anybody? Woo! Man, and listen, it's cold out there. Last Saturday, it was 75 degrees. Today, it's 2, I think. My goodness. And I have this thing. I think it should be cold one day a year. Christmas, all right? Besides that, 75 and sunny. Is anybody on that plan? That's what I'm about. It's not going to happen. But anyway, hey, so glad you're here. If this is your first time here, I'm glad you're here. And let me tell you something to our first-time guests. Every time I see my grandfather, he says to me, if I looked half as good as you, I'd be doing even better. So first-time guests, if I look half as good as you all, I'd be doing even better. You're looking good. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're choosing to spend part of your weekend with us. Overflow, how you doing? Can you hear me? I'm going to do that every week till I die. I love that. Overflow, I'm glad you're here. I can't see you, but I believe you look good right now. I'm choosing to believe the best. And I'm actually looking right at Nate while I'm saying this. This is kind of weird. But while I'm looking at this camera, can we just show some love to our online family for watching right now? Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening to Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, all those places. Hey, we're in this series called Porcupine Dance, and we're talking about relationships. And does anybody know what porcupine means in Latin? Anybody? Ow. If somebody actually knows, I will give you my mic because you're smarter than me. You can speak for me. But no, I do know what porcupine means in Latin because I looked it up this week. I'm not that smart. Porcupine in Latin means the irritable back. That's what it means, all right? So just tuck that away for Jeopardy someday. But porcupines have 30,000 barbed quills on their back because they're irritable. Can anybody relate? Anybody is anybody superpower irritable? 2 people raise their hand. The rest of you, I'm irritated at you right now. The Eagles fans are irritated on Monday night, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, enough of that. But how do porcupines stay connected, because the species has survived, and so somehow how do we stay together even though we're irritable? How do we stay happy together even though we're irritable? And so we're kind of talking about that in this series, and I'm calling today's message, Believe the Best. So I need everybody to turn to 3 people and say, believe the best. Believe the best. Believe the best. Type it in the chat, believe the best. All right, so I need you guys to just kind of take a journey with me. I need everybody to go way back to when you were a kid. Some of you are like, I don't think that's possible for me to go that far back, all right? But go way back to when you were a kid, and I want you to remember how many of you can think of those days when you had a sick day as a kid? Who remembers sick days as a kid? Woo! Okay, listen. I'm going to say something a little controversial right now. I think sick days as a kid are amazing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think a day as being sick as a kid is better than a healthy day as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to skip school. You got to watch The Price is Right with Bob Barker, Plinko. Your mother will give you a ginger ale for breakfast because it settles your stomach. Listen, there's no chance. There's not real ginger in a ginger ale. You know what I'm saying? That's not chance. But your mom is still giving you a breakfast soda. You're watching Plinko. You're watching Bob Barker. You're getting, to skip school. Forget Ferris Bueller's day off. This is your day off. I'm telling you, I think sick days as a kid are amazing. I will die on that hill. But sick days as an adult, that's the worst, isn't it? Your boss is mad at you. You got to reschedule everything. You got co-pays, deductibles coming out your ears. You can't drink a ginger ale because you're older now. It'll raise your blood pressure. You'll probably die. Bob Barker isn't even the host of The Price is Right anymore. Listen, it is terrible. Right? Like, isn't it the worst to have a sick day as a kid or as an adult? And so sick days as a kid are amazing. Sick days as an adult are not so great. And so just a couple weeks ago in my house, like, the whole family was sick. Everybody had the flu. Everybody. Like, tested positive for the flu. I mean, we even thought the dog had the flu. Everybody had the flu in my house except for one person. Me. Now, you might be like, oh, Pastor, that's great. Really? You ever taken care of a house full of flu patients? Listen, I was praying for the flu is what I was doing. I was checking people's temperature, handing out Tylenols. I was giving out COVID tests, and this is 100% a true story. I lost the COVID directions, the test directions in English. All I had them was in German. And I might know some Latin. I don't know German, y'all, all right? So I was just like, yeah, I don't think you got it, but I don't know what German says, okay? So I don't know. And so, like, everybody in the house was sick. I was taking care of everybody. Now, just a little insight into kind of me and Stacy's marriage. Like, when I'm not sick and she is sick, I have some house rules. I don't know if you all have house rules. I got some house rules. House rule number 1 is we will not share a drink. Doesn't matter how thirsty I am or she, no, we will not be sharing a drink. House rule number 2 is I will sit on the couch near her. But there's a 1 couch cushion separation. Not a half couch cushion, not a third of a couch cushion, like a full couch cushion separation. And the third thing is when it comes to, if she's sick and I'm not, if I want to kiss her, she wants to kiss me, which I do. Okay, I want to kiss her. There is no kissing. No, not until there's no symptoms is there any kissing. You know what I'm saying? Now, I can still be there for Stacy. I can still, comfort her with some house rules. And, in fact, I have a video of how I comfort Stacy when she's sick. Here it is. It's great, isn't it? Some of you are, go in the wood shop today and, build a long arm, 6-foot arm. So, anyway, we can pull that down because I just watched that the whole day. But I have these kind of house rules, Now, you should just know this about my wife. When it comes to rules, if there is a rule in place, her sole goal in life is to break the rule. Come on, who's like this? You got to break the rule. Yeah, these are the people who need prayer right here. And so listen, for Stacy, if the speed limit is 25, if that's the rule, she's driving 95. If the wall says, do not touch, she's like, I wonder why they don't want me to touch this. And in my house rule is no kissing until there are no symptoms. Listen, Stacy has never wanted to kiss me more in her life than while she is sick. I can't prove this to be true. This is how it feels like it's true in my house. And so I have this house rule, no kissing, and we're in the kitchen. She's got the flu. And the way I remember it is Stacy came over and she laid a big old kiss on me. And my first reaction was, woo! My second reaction is, girl, you can't be kissing me. Like, I'm the last one standing in this house. Like, if I go down, we all go down. And so I said to Stacy, I said, honey, why did you kiss me? You're trying to get me sick, aren't you? And she said, that was a 50-50 kiss. We equally shared the kiss. And she said, why is it okay for you to kiss me? And that's okay. But if I kiss you, you think I'm trying to get you sick. I'm like, well, you don't need to bring logic into this. Facts don't matter, okay? The fact is yeah, we kiss each other, but can't I just assume that that's not true? Can't I just assume things? Isn't that the whole point of relationships is to assume things that aren't not true? Isn't that true? And so, have you noticed that, and my whole point in this is in relationships, we can either choose to believe the worst about the other person, which is what I did in the kitchen, or we can choose to believe the best about the other person. In relationships, we can either choose to believe the worst about the other person or choose to believe the best about the other person. And let me just tell you, one surefire way to have a better relationship is to choose to believe the best about the other person. If you want to have a better marriage, choose to believe the best about your spouse. If you want to have a better relationship with your friends, choose to believe the best about your friends. If you want to have a better relationship with your family, it's Thanksgiving week. But choose to believe the best about your family. If you want to have a better relationship with Bob, the coworker who works in the cubicle next to you and eats tuna fish out the can every single day for lunch and is a close talker. You have tuna fish again, Bob? Okay. Choose to believe the best about Bob, the coworker. And here's why. I believe when we choose to believe the best about others, it tends to bring the best out in others. I'm going to say that again because I'm preaching good. I'm preaching good right now. Okay. When we believe the best about others, it tends to bring the best out in others. But have you noticed how easy it is to believe the worst about others? Is it just me? I mean, listen, why is it so easy for us to believe the worst about others? Because we're irritable porcupines. And the truth, who cares about the truth? Like in the kitchen, the truth doesn't matter. Let me just operate on my emotions. So anyway, in the kitchen, babe, I know you're watching this right now. Because by the way, my son Nixon woke up and he threw up this morning. So anyway, they're home right now. And so I'm believing the best for you, buddy. But in the kitchen, I was totally operating out of emotion and not out of fact. Because a lot of times we tend to believe the worst. All right. Now, not when I say believe the best, I don't mean ignore the facts. Facts matter. Hello, don't facts matter? Facts matter. Now, here's why I know they matter. A few weeks ago, I was walking by, and my daughter Nora was sitting on the couch, and I walked by her, and her cheek was red, like fire engine red. One cheek. Okay, I mean, it was so red, it looked like the Target app, man. It was like red. And so I was like, Nora, what happened to your cheek? And she said, Nixon, which is, my son, she said, Nixon shot me in the cheek with a Nerf gun. Now, just so you all know, we have a very strict, don't shoot your sister in the face with a Nerf gun policy in our house. And so she said that, and I'm like, Nixon, get down here. I'm like, Nixon, why did you shoot your sister in the cheek with the Nerf gun? And this is what he said, true story. He said, well, I told her to lift her hands. I'm like, what is this, 1883? You think you're Tim McGraw? What are you, Sheriff Nixon now? And I said to him, Nixon, well, you still didn't have to shoot her in the cheek. And this is what he said. He said, Dad, I didn't. He said, I shot her in the side, and the Nerf dart, it ricocheted off a bunch of things, and I think it maybe kind of grazed her cheek. And his sister was behind him, and she's just like, that's not true. That's not true. Didn't happen that way. And I'm like, Nixon, I have watched enough CSI to know. That's a lie. I will bust out the CSI, yarn and do the trajectory. That was a lie. And so Nixon was like, yeah, that was a lie. I'm like, we all know. And so facts matter, all right? Facts are a factor. But in general, I think we can choose to believe the best about others instead of believing the worst. And so my goal today is super simple. I just want to show you that when we believe the best about others, it tends to bring the best out in others. It tends to bring the best out in our relationships, and it tends to bring the best out in ourselves. Now, believing the worst has been our human mantra for thousands of years. We are amazing at believing the worst. Isn't that true? And so Jesus knew this, and so Jesus talked about this 2,000 years ago. So I'm going to read you something out of Matthew 7, starting in verse 1. Now, I'm going to read this out of the Message version. And the Message version is kind of it's like the normal Bible, but kind of reimagined. So if you've kind of seen this verse before in the normal Bible, this is kind of helps you hear it again for the first time. And Jesus is about to read all of our mail. All the mail, okay? So just check this out. And Jesus says this, don't pick on people. Don't jump on their failures. Don't criticize their faults. Unless, of course, you want the same treatment. That critical spirit has a way of what? Boomeranging, like Crocodile Dundee, boomeranging, coming back at us. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Now, did Jesus just read your mail? He just read all my mail. Now, I know some of you right now are like, why you got to show me these verses on Thanksgiving week? Can't you just let me assume the worst about my family and just eat my turkey and cranberry sauce in my own misery? Come on, don't. But here's the thing about this verse. our culture is not exactly crushing it at this. You know what we are crushing it at, though? Canceling people. Woo! You have trouble with somebody, just cancel them, right? Come on, give me an X. Come on, everybody do some X's. Yeah, and so just quick question. With that in mind, would you say that cancel culture picks on people, jumps on their failures, and criticizes their faults? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Follow-up question. Would you say that cancel culture believes the worst about other people? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. And so maybe 2,000 years ago, Jesus was like, hey, 2022, I got something for you. Don't pick on people. Don't jump on their failures. Don't criticize their faults. Unless, of course, you want the same treatment, because that critical spirit has a way of like boomeranging. Everybody say boomeranging. Now, the other day, I heard that Sean Connery got canceled. And now, let me just say, I don't know I didn't know him. We didn't go to like lunch or dinner recently, okay? But they said Sean Connery got canceled. I'm like, isn't he dead? So anyway, but let me just say this. I didn't know him, but I love Sean Connery because he was Indiana Jones' dad. Dun, 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 dun. Come on, any Indiana Jones fans in the room? One of the greatest series of all time. Woo! Not the fourth one. We should cancel the fourth one, okay? Cancel culture, the fourth Indiana Jones. But anyway, but they're like, yeah, like Indiana Jones' dad got canceled. And I'm like, man, like I thought he was dead. And so like I looked into it, and 57 years ago, he said something he shouldn't have said. And he shouldn't have said it. But I'm like, we're canceling dead people for something they said 57 years ago? I'm really glad there was not an audio recording device in my car for what I said 57 minutes ago on the way to church. Is anybody with me? Woo! I wouldn't even be on this stage right now. But the one little problem with cancel culture is nobody's perfect. Which means eventually cancel culture comes for everyone. It kind of like boomerangs. Who said boomerang? Jesus said boomerang. And so listen, I want to believe the best about others because I need the best boomeranging back at me. Anybody with me on that? And just so you know, our church doesn't do cancel culture. We believe in grace culture. We believe in forgiveness culture, second chance culture, all right? Because we are all a mess and we need some grace. We need that boomeranging at us, okay? Because listen, this church, especially this section, y'all need some grace, all right? But I want to believe the best about others because I want that boomeranging back at me. And so let me kind of go over our first point. We have 2 points today. And the first point is this. This isn't about others. This is about yourself. Believe the best about yourself. If we can put that on the screen. Believe the best about yourself. Now, I need everybody to go back to the 90s. Hootie and the Blowfish. 90s. 90s, like if you wanted to rent Ferris Bueller's Day Off on VHS tape, you went to the Blockbuster Video, and you got out your Blockbuster video card. Who remembers the Blockbuster video card? Does anybody still have it? Couple people. It's not coming back. It's never going to come back. There's always hope. Yeah, but not for that, all right? But in the 90s, I didn't have a Blockbuster video card, but I did go to Blockbuster some. But I did skateboard some in the 90s. And so this week I found a picture of me skateboarding in the 90s right here. Look at that. Look, those are 90s graphics that Nate put on it. Like, wow. Everybody say radical, man. That's it. I feel 90s. I can see a Trapper Keeper notebook right now. Now, so I haven't really skated really any since the 90s, but a couple months ago, I went to my cousin's house, Heather, which is here, and her son, Levi, had a skateboard, and I thought, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. Have you ever thought, like, because you used to be able to do something, you can still do it? Has this ever happened to you? Oh, yeah. Like what the great theologian Toby Keith said, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I always was. I don't even really know what that means. It's a confusing lyric. But I thought I could skateboard in the 90s. I can still skateboard in 2022, right? Wrong, okay? This is true. I stood on the skateboard. I went to do an ollie, which is the most basic skateboard move of all the skateboard moves. And I went to do it, and I don't even know what happened next. I think I blacked out. It's a wonder I'm even alive. And the point is, I will never skateboard ever again, okay? That's never going to happen. But my boy Nixon was out there, and he fell in love seeing Levi's skateboard. And so he's like all about skateboarding now. And so he got, he had a gift card to Amazon. And so he ordered a skateboard on Amazon. Now, before the skateboard came in, Nixon started watching skateboard videos on YouTube. And he skipped way over like all the parts about like learning how to stand on a skateboard. Skipped over all that. He was watching people jump out of helicopters onto like 30-foot half pipes into like the X Games, and he's like, that's what I will do. 100% a true story. All right, the skateboard comes in, I take it, I get it all unwrapped, get it all unboxed for him. I hand him the skateboard. He's never even stood on the skateboard. Never even really stood on a skateboard, and he's like, okay, Dad, where's the closest skate park? Because I need to go on a half pipe. Listen, I'm almost 40. I won't even get on a skateboard without making sure my life insurance is updated at this point, because I almost died on Levi's skateboard. Nixon, he's never really even stood on one. He's looking for the half pipe to drop in for the X Games, okay? That's where he's at. And isn't it funny how before like life smacks us around a little bit, we think like the best about ourselves? Like in elementary school, you're like, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to own a private island, probably marry a supermodel, and, maybe invent the flying car. Then you turn 30 and you're like, I just want to go to Walmart and see what the newest frozen meal flavors are. Like what happened? We go from like believing the best to just kind of like settling for where we are. Come on, isn't that true, adults? We just kind of like settle. And sometimes it works that way. We sometimes start to not believe the best about ourselves. We don't just settle either. We kind of start to believe the worst about ourselves. Why? Because maybe you got hurt like I did on Levi's skateboard. Or maybe you kind of got hurt in life, or maybe you lost a job, or maybe, went through a breakup, or, got arrested. I mean, I don't know what it is, but as adults, we can start to believe the worst about ourselves. We can start to think that our past history determines our future destiny, which is kind of discouraging. Everybody say, womp, womp. It's discouraging, and I'm an encourager. And so let me just encourage you with this. As God's people, I'm just going to put you guys in that category. As God's people, we have a choice. We don't have to believe that our past history is our future destiny. All right, we can believe that Jesus' history on the cross paints a picture for our future destiny, and that means our future destiny is going to be good. And let me just tell you this, your mistakes do not define you. Jesus' death and resurrection define you. And if Jesus thought you were worth dying for, you got a whole lot to live for. And if Jesus believes the best in me, then or Jesus sees the best in me, maybe I should start to see the best in me too. Maybe there's a reason Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love who? Yourself. We always forget that part. But why should we love ourselves? Because I think when we see the best in us, we tend to treat our spouse better. We tend to treat our kids better, our friends better, our family better. I can see all your all's faces. You're like, yeah, I can't believe the best about me. All right, last night I was running down Route 1 with a lampshade on my head, Pastor Joel. That's all I was wearing. Don't imagine it. But let me show you something. And this is in Romans chapter 3, verse 22. This is so good. It says this, we are made what? Right. We are made right with God by placing our faith in Jesus Christ. Everybody turn to the person next to you and say, you're all right. You're all right. You're all right. We are made right with God by placing our faith in Jesus. And this is true for everyone who believes. It's for everyone who believes, no matter who we are or what the color of that lampshade was. And so I just came to church to tell somebody, if Jesus made you right, you're going to be all right. You can believe the best about yourself. Because when we believe the worst about ourselves, here's what kind of happens. And we'll put this on the screen. We kind of look at our situation as permanent, pervasive, and personal. Everybody say permanent, pervasive, and personal. Permanent, pervasive, and personal. That's good. That's like a Dr. Seuss line right there. Permanent, pervasive, and personal. And so here's what happens. When you look at yourself as, kind of the worst version of yourself, we tend to look at situations as permanent, pervasive, and personal. So for instance, if you interview for a job and you didn't get the job, you think, well, I'm going to be unemployed permanently. And that guy, the guy who didn't hire me, is probably talking to all his little boss friends at the other places, and I'm not going to get a job anywhere because this is a pervasive situation. And I don't think they hire me because they think I'm a loser. Personal. Right? Or maybe you ask a girl out and she says no. Womp womp. And you think, I'm going to be single permanently. And she's going to talk to all her single friends on the Bumble and on the Tinders and on the Kindles or whatever. I don't even know. And none of them are going to date me. It's going to be a pervasive, I'll be single, it's a pervasive problem. And they don't want to date me because I got bigger eyebrows, hairs than my head hairs. That's just my personal problem, not yours. But we tend to look at things as permanent, pervasive, and personal. Guys, this is a choice. This isn't based on fact. Okay, the only person who thinks your situation is permanent, pervasive, and personal is you. So can I show you a different way? Is that okay? Now, here's a different way. We'll put this on the screen. Instead, look at your situation as changeable, specific, and situational. Everybody say changeable, specific, and situational. Changeable, specific, and situational. These are all hard words to say together. I should have thought this through. Yeah, no, there's not. But let's say, for instance, you ask a girl out and she says no. Which, let me just say, guys, no means no. Don't get getting canceled on me this week, all right? So no means no. But no doesn't mean never. There it is. And so you ask a girl out and she says no, but no doesn't mean never. And so maybe sometime later, she will say yes. And maybe she said no because it's based on some specifics. Like maybe you are unemployed and you live in your parents' basement. But you can change that specific. And maybe she said no because it wasn't about your bushy eyebrows. Maybe it was because she's just not really ready to date anybody. And so the situation is changeable, specific, and situational. Now, I can just tell. Some of you are like, that's a theory. This doesn't really work out. Can I show you like a real life example that worked out? Is that okay? Okay, here's a picture of, this is Bo Stinkin' Dukes, our normal worship leader, who wasn't here today because his son hurt his arm. And this is a girl named Katie Stinkin' Johnston. Now, I found this in my attic this week, and the reason I have this, and Bo's putting Katie in a headlock, 10 out of 10 would not recommend that. But I have this picture because Bo, Katie, Johnston, and I, we all graduated together, and this is from our senior trip. Now, this is senior year, but in 8th grade, Katie Johnston came to the school that Bo and I were at, and Bo fell off the cliff in love the moment he saw Katie. I'm talking like he was running through the field, singing The Sound of Music. That boy was gone. But Katie, oddly enough, she wasn't ready to make a lifelong relationship commitment in the 8th grade. Crazy. And so, but Bo, he was, ready to go. Now, he was respectful. She, romantically kind of, pursued Katie, and, she was, not really into it. And Bo could have believed the worst. He could have been like, okay, this is a permanent situation. I'm going to be single. Katie's going to tell all her girlfriends, and no one's going to date me, and, she doesn't like me because I'm a loser or something. Bo could have went down the permanent, pervasive, personal track, but he believed the best. And he kept on calling with those nights and weekend minutes back in 2001, baby. You remember those? You get free minutes on the weekend. So he would call, he would AOL instant message her, you know what I'm saying? With the dial-up, all that stuff. And then eventually, Katie Stinkin' Johnston turned into Katie Stinkin' Dukes. And these two now have more kids than all of us combined. All right, so you don't tell Bo Stinkin' Dukes things aren't changeable, specific, or situational. He has 73,000 kids to prove you otherwise. And so I just want to tell you, your past history doesn't determine your future destiny. It's not necessarily permanent. It's not necessarily pervasive. It's not necessarily personal. It can be changeable, specific, and situational. And if Jesus made me right and he made you right, then things are going to be all right. And if he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself, then maybe we should believe the best about ourselves, because when we do that, I think the best comes out in us. And so if you want to believe the best about others, it starts with believing the best about yourself. Now, here's the obvious one. The last point I'll give you today is to believe the best about others. Now, just want to do another little poll. I got you all to the 90s, that last point. This point, I want to see who in the room hates to throw away clothes out of your closet. Like, you keep everything. Your closet could be the set for that 70s show because you have all the clothes from the 70s to now. Come on, raise your hand if you love to keep everything. Okay. How many of you, it gives you no greater joy than to get rid of clothes? How many of you, that's where you're at? Okay, my people, right there. Now, you know what happens when one person hates to get rid of clothes and somebody else loves to get rid of clothes when they meet? You know what happens? They fall in love and get married. Like, they don't say opposites attract for no reason, all right? So, and in my house, like, I'm the one who gets rid of stuff. And my wife, listen, I love my wife, but Lord help her. She has the hardest time getting rid of stuff. She has clothes still from 19 years ago when we started dating. Me, I'm the total opposite. I have this philosophy in our closet, all right? Whenever I bring a new thing in, I take an old thing out. I'm like, oh, a new shirt's coming in. Come here, old shirt. Thank you for your service, old shirt. You have been good, but you're going to go live with Goodwill now. I'm a one in, one out kind of guy. That's how I handle my closet, okay? Stacy's got everything in there. She's got the last 4 decades fully represented. For me, though, I like one in, one out, so I'm very minimal in my closet, and I have everything color coordinated because I'm crazy. And Stacy's side just looks crazy, all right? And so, but about a month ago, Stacy started to like clean out and organize the closet. I'm like, whoa, who are you? And she's like taking things down. And this is what I learned when I started, when I married Stacy 15 years ago. When Stacy starts to clean things out, things are going to get really bad for a while. Like, nuclear bomb goes off bad, like bad. But after the dust clears, Stacy can make things way more organized than I can. And so she starts like cleaning things out. And so for the past month, there's been these clothes piles in our closet. And like to walk through the closet, I'm just like shimmying by these clothes piles. Now, when we first got married, okay, like newlywed Joel, also known as idiot Joel, I would have been like not believing the best. I would have been like shimmying by these piles, like, I can't believe Stacy, what is she doing? This is a mess. Like that's like newlywed idiot Joel. But idiot Joel was not permanent. Praise the Lord. And so now I do intentionally try to believe the best about Stacy. So like now, I'm like, this last month, I've been like shimmying by all her like clothes piles, and I'm thinking, she's going to make her side look better than mine. I got to step up my game. And I promise you, I am so thankful that my wife has this thing where she likes to hold on to old clothes. Like, I have made a complete switch on this. Because, listen, my wife is very conscientious, and she does not like to spend money. And so I could have old clothes piles and no debt, or I could have piles of debt and new clothes. Choose the old clothes, baby, every single time. And so some of you just like elbowed your spouse. Don't do that. Okay, that's going to get you in trouble. But I'm telling you, I do intentionally try to believe the best about Stacy, and it makes our relationship so much better. And so, guys, listen, don't argue about the clothes piles in the closet. Let's just embrace the clothes piles. Take out the snow sled. Go down the clothes piles. You know what I'm saying? They've done all this research to kind of figure out, like, what keeps couples together and keeps them happy. They've done a lot of research. It's like, what is the secret sauce for marriages and couples? And the truth is, they can't really find a universal answer. Some of you are like, I could have told you that. I've been confused since the day I got married. But they cannot really find a universal answer until the State University of New York did this study, and they were able to like land on an answer for like secret sauce of why marriages stay together. And here's what they discovered, and we'll put this on the screen. The couples that stayed together and stayed happy were the ones where the husband rated his wife better than she rated herself. I'm going to read that again for all the husbands in the room. The couples that stayed together and stayed happy were the ones where the husband rated his wife better than she rated herself. In other words, he saw the best in her. Now, all the single ladies, and all the married ladies are like, where could one find this husband? I'm married, but I'm willing to just see. You can find him in the basement. Obviously, right, guys? Right, men? Very unenthusiastic, but that's okay. But I think this is a wild conclusion. I think it's a crazy conclusion. And this week I was thinking, though, like, what if this isn't just true for marriage? Like, what if this is true for all relationships? Like, what if the secret sauce to a healthy relationship is to see that other person better than you see, or better than they see themselves? What if the secret sauce to relationships is to believe the best about the other person? You know what would happen? I think we wouldn't be as porcupiney. We wouldn't be as irritable backs anymore. You know what I mean? Why? Because when we believe the best about others, it tends to bring the best out in others. Now, this believing the best about others is not just like a State University of New York finding. All right, this is like a Bible thing. Let me show you 2 verses in Romans 12, 10, and then skip down to verse 18. So, first off, says, love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Not assuming the worst, but in honoring each other. Then verse 18 says, do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Now, I know, you guys are like, I can't live at peace with everyone. Like, have you met everyone? Do you know those people? Some of you have those people coming over for Thanksgiving, don't you? Don't you have those people coming over? So how do we live at peace with everyone? And you never know. This is kind of how I explain this. You never know what somebody's going through that can explain why they're porcupiney. I learned this the hard way. So a couple years ago, we were building a house over in the Ocean View area, and as our house was being built, I used to drive by all the time. And I don't know if you've ever been like building a house. You do the house drive by like. It's my house. I'm building it. I don't know what a Phillips head is, but I'm building that house. So we would drive by all the time. And so, like, has anybody ever done that when your house is being built? You just do the drive, like, oh, what's up? That's my house. And so we were like, I had my kids in the car, Nora and Nixon, and they were like 5 and 7 at the time. And I was driving slow, because you drive by slow. So I was going like 5. Some of you have never gone 5 in your life, okay? I was going 5 miles an hour and just going super slow. And there was this little old lady in front of me, and I saw her, okay, on the road. And the reason I saw her is because she was wearing like bright red pants. And I had never really seen bright red pants. So I saw this little old lady in her bright red pants, but she didn't see me until kind of like the last minute. I'm like very far away from her, but she turned and saw me, and when she did, she frantically like grabbed her dog, ran off the road, and just like granny stared me down. I mean, I think she would have cooked me for Thanksgiving dinner. Like, she was so, like, her face was as red as her pants. And then she, like, motioned to me to, like, put my window down. I'm like, oh, Lord. But I respect my elders, all right, so I put my window down. And she said, you need to slow down. I'm like, I'm going 5. I mean, I didn't say that wrong. I'm thinking, I'm 5. My speedometer doesn't even want to register what I'm doing right now. It's like, maybe 5, 4, I don't know. And she said, you almost hit my dog. I'm like, I wasn't even close to your dog. It's like the Eagles-Commanders game. It wasn't even close. I couldn't have said that at the time because that didn't happen yet. But I found out later that this lady was from New Jersey. I was like, well, that explains it. She was from New Jersey. But I did find out that she was my neighbor like a few houses down where I was moving. And this was our first interaction. Not great. And so I kind of like was afraid and avoided her. And I know, like, I'm the pastor, like, love your neighbor. But I'm like, have you met her though, Lord? She almost killed me. And so, anyway, so I avoided her for the longest time. And then one day I was in my yard doing yard work. And she comes and she like, comes into the yard, and I didn't see her. I just turned around, and old Red Pants is right there. So I'm like, woo, okay. She said, I heard you're a pastor. I'm like, oh, Lord. Yeah, Eagle's Nest is my church. She said, I heard you're a pastor. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pastor. And she said, Pastor, I know I can seem grumpy. And she said, but I'm just really sad. She said, I'm lonely over there. And my husband died about a year ago. And my family's all in New Jersey. And it's just me and my dog. And that's why I got scared that day for my dog. I was like, I'm going to cancel myself right now. I'll write you a check for everything I have and more. And I will never talk bad about New Jersey people ever again. But then I was like, yeah, but that part's not true. Okay, so that's a true story. And that was a moment for me because it made me realize, like, yes, people are irritable. Yes, people are frustrating. Hello. But I just want to choose to believe that there's probably a perfectly good explanation for why they are the way that they are. You know what I mean? And so maybe that porcupine person in your life isn't salty. Maybe they're just lonely. Maybe, guys, she's not a control freak. She's just detail-oriented. And remember when you were dating and you loved how organized she was? Well, now that you're married, you're part of her organization. Maybe my wife's closet isn't messy because she's a messy person. Maybe she's just in the middle of the process. Just settle down. Give her a second, Joel. Maybe your husband isn't a workaholic. Maybe he's driven. He's trying to take care of your family. Maybe your boss isn't demanding. Maybe he's just trying to get you to reach your potential. Maybe that customer isn't rude. Maybe they're a New Yorker and that's just how they talk. I don't even think that was a good, accent, but you get the drift. Maybe that person who was tailgating you on the way to church today, hello. Maybe they are actually the devil. I mean, they could be. But maybe they're on the way to the hospital, so don't send them to the hospital. Maybe there's people in your family who are going to show up to Thanksgiving dinner late and they're not going to bring any food, but they're going to bring empty Tupperware to take leftovers home. Now we're getting real. Look, maybe they're not lowlifes. Maybe they just are they got 5 stinking kids like most stinking dudes. You should be grateful they even got to your house in one piece. You know, maybe your boyfriend's dad isn't a untrusting, sneak up on you psychopath, although he is that. Maybe he's just looking out for his little girl. You know, I want to choose to believe the best because when I believe the worst, it brings the worst out of me. And you may say, well, you're just naive, Pastor Joel. They are the worst. And they may be. They may be. But I think you will smile more. I think you will have lower blood pressure. You will have a happier life if you choose to believe the best anyway. And so this week, on Thanksgiving week, come on, gobble, gobble. Everybody say gobble, gobble. On people coming into your space week, I want you to just do 2 things, and we'll put this on the screen. I want you to choose to believe the best about yourself, even when you burn the marshmallowy top to the sweet potato little dish. Believe the best about yourself, and choose to believe the best about others. When that family member says, yeah, but Aunt Charlotte never burnt the top of her marshmallows, choose to believe the best about others. So choose to believe the best about yourself and others. And the reason why is because I think Jesus read my mail this week, and maybe you read your mail this week when he said this, and we'll read it one last time to close up. Don't pick on people. Just pick that turkey out. Don't jump on their failures. Just jump on, positivity. Don't criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. So I need everybody from overflow to the back row to the front row. Just say, believe the best. Believe the best. All right, one more time on 3. 1, 2, 3. Believe the best. All right, let me pray for you. Jesus, we need a pep talk sometimes because it's so easy for us to believe the worst, which is probably why 2,000 years ago you said these words to us. And so, God, I pray that we'll kind of walk out of here and just say, number one, I'm going to believe the best about myself. I might not have the best history. I may have a track record, but God, you said to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so God, I pray that you'll help us to see the value in us because you saw value in us, and that's amazing. And then God, I just pray that we'll just share that value across the table with the people in our lives. I pray that we'll believe the best about them, because when we believe the best about others, it tends to bring the best out in others. And so God, that's what we want, especially on Thanksgiving week. I pray that you'll use us to bring the best out in others because you really believe the best in us. And so God, we love you. We thank you for your grace. We pray that we'll extend some of that this weekend. And God, just help us through those difficult situations in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen, amen.